a blockbuster bit of reporting last week when it was rumored that Arista Networks would be acquiring Velocloud from Broadcom. Velocloud was formerly the SD-WAN business that was a startup acquired by VMware back in 2017, about $450 million. Solution then got bundled into the networking and NSX component of the VMware product suite and seemed to do pretty well. I quite liked the product when I did some work with the SD-WAN team at VMware. Of course, Broadcom buys VMware and everything changes, and Broadcom wants to get back to the core products in VMware and has been progressively divesting of the non-core assets. Reporting's not yet been confirmed by either side, and community feedback seems to be pretty positive. Tom, what's going on?
I wish I had a really clear answer because when I first heard about this last week, I was a little bit shocked, to be honest with you. Not shocked in the way that Velocloud was getting sold off, because I think we see that that's kind of Broadcom's trajectory for the brand known as VMware. Now, anything that's not core to VMware Cloud Foundation is going to be sent away. You think about their end user compute that got sold off to KKR. That was not really a surprise to anyone. The fact that nobody wanted to buy Carbon Black off of them actually was kind of surprising to me. And that's one of the reasons why Carbon Black was kind of brought back in house. It's not because it was critical to the operation of VMware Cloud Foundation. It was more that nobody could afford to buy it. I think this, though, has the potential to be a really good deal. If you look at what Arista has been doing for, the last few years, they've been making quiet acquisitions. You may think of Awake Security, or you may think of Big Switch Networks, or honestly, you may think to yourself, I don't even know who those companies are. That's because they don't go out and make splashy deals that are huge dollar values and then struggle to integrate those components. What they do is they buy smaller companies where they can take the assets for those companies and kind of roll them into their existing product lines. And I think that that's what we're going to see here, provided this deal actually goes through, because you know how it is, right? Where there's smoke, there's fire, but sometimes there's not anything at all. So we're working off of the assumption that this is actually going to happen. If it does, this gives Arista, honestly, a play that they've needed for a while, which is SD-WAN. If you look at the market, there's been people who've been speculating for the last couple of years that the SD-WAN market is down because they have seen some pull through, right? Like, everybody needed an SD-WAN appliance when the pandemic started, and then the people who were going to buy it kind of bought it. So where does that leave them now? Well, when you think about the fact that Arista is very active in cloud computing, they're considered to be one of the networking vendors of choice for people in the cloud, whether it's Azure or AWS or a lot of other companies. Being able to offer SD-WAN on the on-prem devices as well as the cloud devices, it's a huge win for cloud providers because they can provide secure data tunnels using SD-WAN between those two locations. It also gives Arista a place to compete against Cisco because, I mean, in that market, Cisco is the king that everybody's coming for. And Arista wants to make sure that they're not going to miss. VeloCloud has really good technology. And I know if you watched our mobility field day coverage a couple of weeks ago, you probably heard from CTO Ken Duda, who is probably the best proponent in the industry of code quality. And I think that that's one of the things here is he's going to be scrutinizing the code quality of the VeloCloud engineers, which is high, by the way. But that ultimately means that if we're going to see VeloCloud SD-WAN technology integrated into Arista's EOS operating system, it's going to have to pass muster, and that could take a little bit of time to integrate. So probably what you'll see is if this goes through, they'll start selling VeloCloud appliances on the edge, very similar to what Cisco did with Viptela. And then as the code quality requirements get to where they need to be, you'll probably start seeing that integration piece where maybe those hardware devices become end of life, end of support, and the software itself runs in Arista boxes on top of EOS, and it just becomes transparent. That typically is the way that Arista handles these things. I think that's a good thing overall. The question is whether or not there's actually anything here. And we're going to have to wait a few days, weeks to find out. because the one thing I'll say about these acquisitions, especially if it's not material to the bottom line of the company, is that we often find out about them after they've already closed. So make sure you stay tuned to the rundown because I'm sure when it does close, we will definitely be covering it in more depth.